Hey, well, it's a lively crowd, and we have a wonderful conversation coming up. Katie and Yvonne, thanks so much for joining us for this fast-paced conversation. You're both experts in the biotech boom in Boston and the Commonwealth. And what I'd like to ask you about is what is unique about the Boston or the Commonwealth clean tech, green tech sector, and what does the sector need to scale in a major way?
Okay, so if you look out here, how many of you are entrepreneurs scaling clean tech companies right now? Okay.
Yeah. Woo, thank you.
There's a huge group right here. So you need a few things. First of all, you need an idea that freaking matters. So you need something that will have broad impact. You need to be able to capitalize the idea and create a team that can actually scale it globally. And that is what Massachusetts has done in so many different industries, and clean tech is just one of them. And then you need regulatory pathways to get there quickly, and you need people that will actually partner with you very early on. So whether you're doing clean cement, clean steel, new energy generation, all kinds of energy generation, they need to be dense, cheap, and widely available. And that's what we invest into. But it takes time and a long view. And without partners and capital, you'll get nowhere. And if people flinch or the state flinches, you're going to see a lot of stranded assets. And that is about as dumb as you could ever get. And so here we are. We're in the state of Massachusetts. We are known for just dense, smart group of people. Not dense, like very densely packed. And we actually know how to do this. So if you haven't met some of the entrepreneurs here and you're just sitting talking to each other, that's insane. Get up and meet each other. So all you entrepreneurs, go meet everybody here. We just introduced Harvard Sustainability, Green Ribbon Commission, investors to incredible people that could do something together. That's the point of this. It is actually doing. It's getting steel in the ground, cement in the ground, the state behind us, corporations behind us. And that's, by the way, that is a bipartisan thing we need to do. And so this might feel very earthy crunchy, but it isn't. This is global competition. This is why Massachusetts has led for a very long time. But if you don't know each other, we won't get anything done.
Okay, Katie, tell us what you really think. I think we have our first tweetable quote right there from Katie. Let's get that word out. Thank you for your candor. Yvonne, same question.
Well, first of all, I just want to say what a tremendous honor it is to be here tonight with Ceres, with Mindy, the whole team, with Ann, and Katie, who was our first angel check in PillPack when it was a little tiny startup when I was CO and CFO. So it's a real honor. So I will match your RFK quote with a JFK quote, which is that when I was Secretary of Economic Development for our state, we one of the first things we had to do is we were required once every 4 years to do a state economic development plan. We took it very seriously, and our plan talks about how if you look at the history of our state, the 250 years we've been around and all the things we've done, we are revolutionaries. We invent, we innovate, and we choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it is hard. We're not a state that does easy things. We solve hard, important problems, and we do it for good. And we've done it again and again and again, and life sciences is an example of that success. But the existential crisis of our time, obviously, is climate change. This is a really hard problem, and this is what we're good at. So if you look at our economic development plan, then you look at the bill that came out after that. The bill was called the Mass Leads Act, and that act was a $4 billion bill, of which $1 billion of it is investing in this space of climate tech to spur on all the innovation from our startups, academia, big companies, investors, nonprofits, city, state government, all of us working together to try to build the same success in climate tech that we've had in life sciences, and for many other things too. So
Hear, 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 hear. All right. Well, Katie, there's a lot of investors in the room, and I think you just started to allude to this, but I'm wondering if you have specific guidance for them in terms of what they should invest in the short term to really scale clean tech right here in Boston and in Massachusetts.
Well, it's not just the short term. You can't, we're not a hedge fund. Like things like this aren't hedge funds. You actually have to take the long view, and you have to be allies with each other. Like it doesn't take one stage of capital. It actually takes early stage investors, mid-stage investors, infrastructure investors, understanding why you're investing in these companies and why it makes long-term economic and impact sense. It can't just be one, it has to be both. And so what we try to do is make sure that there's clear communication between all the stages of capital and then our allies in different corporations who absolutely have sustainability goals that need to meet them. And the only way to truly meet them is through hardcore innovation, like we do in our universities here, whether it's MIT or Harvard or many others. UMass, I mean, you could go on and on. We have real innovators that make techno-economic sense, and they make sense from a supply chain sense. And there are so many incredible examples. Like, I sit on the board of Commonwealth Fusion. If you haven't been out to see what they're doing in Fort Devens and what we're going to have from that, but go talk to the entrepreneurs right here. We're doing things in hydrogen. We're doing things in steel and cement. I mean, many people, and small modular nuclear. Like, these are things that make sense for the long term, but we have to align. Like, the thing biotech did is the FDA gave them the stages of clinical trials. So investors understood the type of risk they were taking. And so it aligned people at different stages. People investing in energy and clean energy have to understand that together, as along with corporations and decarbonization of all kinds of industries. But we kind of know what we're doing. And if we flinch right now, this is not a Republican versus Democrat issue. I'm sorry, it just isn't. This is about the future of our country, our world, and AI is only driving us faster. And actually, it's creating so many opportunities for real change and sustainable long-term change. And I think there's nothing like the last 18 months of, a lot of chaos, but also so much opportunity, because our energy needs are growing very, very rapidly. And that means that we are really looking at clean energy solutions. I mean, just go ask the entrepreneurs there, go ask anybody who's trying to put something on the grid. Like, they are driven to make really good long-term decisions. All the Magnificent Seven, they are looking at how do they partner with clean energy. And that is true of almost every Fortune 500 company. And so I think it's an incredibly important time. But if we seize up and not seize the moment, it's our loss.
Another
the globe is going.
Quote, seize up and don't seize up, seize the moment. Okay, so we're going to ask the Seaport Hotel for a few extra hours tonight so you guys can hang and meet one another. PJ party,
Of
I don't know.
course.
But I mean, you're giving me a sense of urgency that I think people want to
urgent.
jump on. Absolutely. Yvonne, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more about some pending state legislation, and two acts come to mind. One is the DRIVE Act and the other is the Energy Affordability Act. And how will either or both of those help to spur clean tech?
Yeah, so we worked very hard on the State Economic Development Plan and on the Mass Leads Act, and that was all prior to Trump. So thank goodness we passed that and we have those resources. But as you know, we have a very, very competitive governor, and we have an incredible legislature. And so post-Trump, there are now a couple of other new bills that are actively being debated in the legislature that the governor has put forward. One of them is the DRIVE Act. One thing I learned in state government is we're very good at coming up with cool acronyms. So the DRIVE Act stands for, what is it called? Is it Discovery, Research, Innovation for a Vibrant Economy? So it's DRIVE. But essentially, the federal government has cut so much funding, which has impacted our state, because we were very good at winning NIH grants. We were very good at winning DoD grants. And so that has hurt a lot of our academic institutions, a lot of our companies here. I just want to be honest, there's no amount of state money that will replace those federal monies. The gap is too big. However, the governor, along with actually our very own John Palfrey's brother, Quentin Palfrey, and a bunch of the other cabinet secretaries, we have been very creative in finding pools of money that we can put together for this DRIVE Act. And it's $400 million that the state of Massachusetts is putting together to make sure that we can continue to support the most groundbreaking research in life sciences and saving people's lives and curing disease and in climate change and fighting this existential crisis. So the DRIVE Act is really important. Again, No other state is kind of trying to do this. We are trying to be nimble and trying to do everything we can to support our ecosystem. So that's one example. The other one is one that Melissa Levinson and her team are working on here from Secretary Tepper's office, which is the Energy Affordability Act. And so this is this is one of those things where Katie was saying it too. We can't be doing things just purely for science or purely because it's good. We also have to do things that make sense for our families, for our communities, and for business. And one of the things that's so important for us is we need to be affordable. And that is, we are in a competitive world and as folks, want to pay their gas bills and folks want to pay their energy bills and companies are looking at their costs, we want to make sure our state stays competitive. Well, the Energy Affordability Act is trying to address that, but trying to do that through innovation. So how can we actually use all of our amazing science and our patents and our wicked smart people to find ways to deliver energy cheaper and also more reliably and also, by the way, more sustainably. So this act is another really important act.
Okay, well, thanks so much for highlighting both. And if you're interested in working with us on Beacon Hill next week, we can work on both of those bills because the timing is short. And thanks for your leadership, Representative Moschino, who is here. Appreciate that. Both are really important. Now, in a moment, I'm going to ask you both, if you can think about this, what is the call to action tonight? And, you have investors and companies and allies here. What's the call to action as you look out at folks to scale and more fully develop the clean tech economy, either in Boston or in the state or both?
Well, I have a really easy one. I told Anne, I said, you're doing it tonight by being at Ceres. There's a target to hit tonight, so I'm hoping you all contribute. And we can, I think one thing we talked about in cabinet a lot with the governor is that we are living history right now. We are living in unprecedented, not good times. And every day, if you're like me, you read the newspaper, and every day you're like, how is this possible? And every day I have conversations with friends talking about 1930s Germany or Japanese internment, things that I never thought I'd be talking about in the year 2025. Having said all that, I think when you look back, you want to think, were you on the right side of history? And what did you do when you were living history? Now, there are many things we cannot control. It's very hard for any of us in this room to solve Ukraine and Russia. It's very hard for any of us in this room to solve Gaza and what's going on in the Middle East. But there are things we can control in this state and in our country. And supporting this group Ceres and the work that you all are doing to bridge these different worlds and to make sure we work together on these hardest problems, that is something we can control. So I would 100% say that's a call to action. The other thing I will say is that the Constitution was set up to have checks and balances. We don't have that in this exact moment. So the number one thing that's coming up that matters in the federal government is the midterms. If it feels good for you to protest, if it feels good for you to go out and be with your neighbors, you should do all those things. But only one thing matters is getting the midterms to kind of reflect the will of the people. And so it is going to be very important for all of us to do the work we can to try to make the midterms really matter. And I will say one other thing. I was just talking at our table. It really matters right now where you live and what state you're in. Thank goodness we all live in Massachusetts. And I will just channel the governor. I was with her on Friday night at a dinner. We know we have work to do. We need to be more affordable. We need to be more competitive. We need to fix housing and have more housing here. And incredibly, Mindy's son is doing this incredible work on housing. We have work to do on transportation. So we're doing that work. But it matters what state you live in. So thank you for being in the state and being on the Team Massachusetts in the state. And when people are complaining about, I want to move to New Hampshire, I want to move to Florida, remind them, this is the state to be in to do this work. So thank you.
You're here.
So I'll just say, all the talk about the midterms, that's a long time from now. And there's stuff to do today. If you work in a corporation, if you work in a fund, if you fund funds, if you could work with entrepreneurs, the time is now. And, I grew up the daughter of an academic, so I always got these very cerebral questions of how do you know that's going to work? Have you done enough research on it? So there's this little devil on my shoulder saying, do you know enough? Actually, we know enough. And so stop that kind of thinking and not working with other people or saying it's not practical today. Nothing great has ever been practical. And so I think you really have to look across this room. If you haven't met 10 people you don't know and are doing amazing things, you've kind of wasted tonight. And, I'm kind of one of those crazy people. I'm pulling people from tables, but that is what it takes to find your allies. And so how many of you here work in a company that wants to push the edges of clean tech and have a better tomorrow? How many people work in a corporation? All right, awesome. How many people fund, work in pension funds or things that actually give money to investors? Okay, awesome. You can do things. How many are entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs, stand up. Come on, people. Let's go. Yes. They hear every single day, oh my God, people are pulling back on climate investing. Come on, is that real? It's not real. Go and find them. Figure out what you can do to help them, because that is the future. It always comes from the young. It comes from those people who say, screw it, let's have a better tomorrow. And they're right here tonight.
Well, it doesn't get any better than that. I told you they were powerhouse women. Please join me in thanking Katie and Yvonne for their compelling remarks.